And we're off and running. We're off and running. Finally, at last. Holy moly. Thank you very much. On the phone with one of my favorite comedians from Chicago, Fat Drunk Irishman, Patrick Bagden, everybody. Let's hear it for him. It's going good, dude, and thanks for doing this. You know, we've got Patrick Bagden. We've been working together for a long time. I think we started out, when we first met, was at Cigars and Stripes out in Berwyn, Illinois, which is a suburb of Chicago, and is one of my favorite places to roll in, like on a Wednesday night or what. Yeah. And just mess around and just do experimental stuff. It was always one of my favorite places. And I remember, dude, when I first met you, you went on stage and you fucking owned that room.
Well, there are a bunch of degenerates in Berwyn, so I totally fit in. And Ronnie, the owner, he's like a mix of, Charles Manson was the host of The Gong Show, so it's my kind of fucking room, you know?
Yes, and that's exactly what Ronnie, I mean, he was a former pro wrestling manager, so he really knew how to hype up the comedians. And I've got Patrick Bagden. He's actually going to be playing for a sold-out show this Wednesday night in Clinton, Wisconsin at the world-famous Boxcars Pub and Grub. They sell out every show. They usually sell it out way in advance. So if you don't have your tickets for this one, you're probably fucked. Now, Tim and Randy, they might release some last-minute seating the day of, depending on who shows up or who doesn't. But it's a real tight, packed room. They bring in like 50, 60 people, standing room only. And when you go in there, brick wall, beautiful stage, amazing sound and lights. It's like playing like in a miniature version of the Improv.
No, it's awesome. I remember I was there a few years ago, and like you said, the owner I talked to, Tim at the time, was a super nice guy. Couldn't have been nicer to me. It was a great crowd. They got the stand-up cardboard cutout on stage of the Three Stooges, which I think are probably the only three Jewish guys that are in Clinton, Wisconsin. But that cardboard cutout. But it was a good time, and I'm looking forward to going back, and we'll have a party on a Wednesday night. Fuck it, why not, man?
Yeah, man. I've got the Fat Drunk Irishman on the phone with me right now. I kind of feel like I should be imbibing in a cocktail or something. I had a glass of ice, but then we got all kinds of technical issues, so I didn't bring over a bottle, whatever. I got a bottle of Jameson upstairs. I'll do an honorary shot for you later on.
I appreciate it, brother. Yeah, I'm way ahead of you. I've been doing Jameson. I had to switch to whiskey from beer because I've been on this keto diet for about a year. So I'm still plenty fat, not as fat as I was. I've been eating a lot of meat. I got kind of a sore throat. I got to remind myself, if I'm going to eat a canned ham, I got to take it out of the can first. But I'm having a good time, and I'm looking forward to Wednesday, man. I'm bringing a guy along with me, a funny dude, Todd Glover. He's a Northside comic. He'll be the feature. So I guess with the Stooges on stage, they'll bring the Jewish people count in Clinton to 4, all with Todd Glover.
Beautiful.
But it'll be a good time.
Yeah, man, and right before we went live here, Patrick is like, dude, are there any language restrictions or any content preferences? I'm like, fuck no. I very well could get reported by Facebook. I very well could get demonetized from YouTube if I had ever been monetized to begin with. But it's no holds barred, and that's one of the things I like about working with you, dude. Like, we did that show in Peru, Illinois, almost a year ago, I want to say. And, you're one of those guys.
We're actually going back there pretty soon.
Yeah, I think we're working together as well.
Yeah, the 1st of February.
The 1st of February, yeah. And Harry Hickstein books that room. He does an amazing job with teaming up the comedians, because I'm one of those headliners that likes to go on stage after the opening act has already shocked them into paying attention. A lot of headliners, they want their opening act to be clean. I like the opening act to be a little bit more rated R, shock them into paying attention, and then when I get up there, it doesn't seem so crass.
No, absolutely. Yeah, no, you're right. Some headliners, they like the guy to be squeaky clean so that whatever you say is going to have a little more impact. But you and I have a really nice balance when we do shows together. So I've always had a good time working with you. I appreciate it. So thank you again.
Oh, yeah, you're welcome, man. And thank you for always just keeping it real and keeping it raw. And you get up there, and it's hilarious. I'm one of these guys, like, I think George Carlin said something like this, and I'm going to have to look it up just to make sure, but George Carlin said something back in the day. He's like, when it comes to clean and dirty material, he said, a funny joke is never dirty, but a dirty joke is never funny. And what he meant by that was, if it's truly funny, it's just funny. And it's not really, dirty jokes are only dirty jokes if they tank.
Sure, absolutely.
You know what I mean?
No, I love Carlin, man. He was one of my heroes for sure. Another quote about comedy where he said, it's the job of a comedian to find out where the line is and then find a way to cross it.
That's right.
I've always, I don't want to be like, squeaky clean. It's never been my style. I can do it if I have to. I'm a professional. I've been doing this for a long time. Like you mentioned, we've known each other at least a decade. So,
yeah.
But to have a great time in a room like Clinton with people that are there to have a good time, and I'm looking forward to coming back to the Beloit area, because I remember at that Road Dog restaurant, they got that big statue of the bulldog. It looks exactly like my ex-wife, especially from behind. So that'll be sort of a thing. Real reminiscent when I get there. I'm looking forward to it. Maybe buff one out in her onto the parking lot. So I'm coming back, man. We're coming back to Boxcars to kick some ass. And I hope everybody has a good time.
They will, dude. They're going to freaking love you there. And I remember the last time you played there, you were the opening act. This time you're going on full balls to the wall, full tilt headliner. So I know they're really looking forward to it.
Yeah, man. It'll be a great time.
Oh, yeah.
Wednesday night, man. It's great to know that there's still people that go out there on a Wednesday and they're not worried about being a little red-eyed Thursday morning. You gotta pay a price for having a good time in this world. So it'll be a good time.
Do you do a lot of road gigs these days?
I've done quite a few. I've done, actually, I just did a private show a couple weeks ago with the living legend, Uncle Larry Reed, in Wisconsin. We did a show in a town actually called Clintonville, which I guess is probably sort of like Clinton, but, with different Walmarts and shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then I'm doing a show actually with Uncle Larry. So he told me the 18th that I'm going to be with him in another town in Wisconsin. He just told me it's an Indian name that starts with a K. So we didn't narrow it down for me there, Larry, but wherever it is, that's where I'm going.
I love working with Uncle Larry too. Tell him Jared Dog says hi. This is one of my favorite things about comedy, Patrick, is that I remember being a fan of Larry Reed way back in the day when he first made an appearance on the Rodney Dangerfield special, because I was already a fan of Rodney Dangerfield, and I think they're having Sam Kinison on that. I don't remember exactly, but I remember watching Rodney Dangerfield, excited just to see Rodney Dangerfield's comedy special. Uncle Larry came on. I loved him, thought it was hilarious. And then I remember later on when I was old enough to get into comedy clubs before I actually started doing stand-up, he would play at the Funny Bone in town, and I was like, that's the guy! I freaking love this dude! And I'd bring all my friends, and now years later, I get to work with him, I book him, I put him in all my grassroots show. He's an amazing guy. Like, in my opinion, one of the best. That's not necessarily like a huge superstar, but definitely one of the fucking best, in my opinion.
For sure, no, and he, if you go out here to Chicago at the Rosemont Zanies, they have a big painting of Uncle Larry that's up on the wall. So he's definitely well known and appreciated, for his talent. He's a good dude. I've been looking forward to seeing him. But before that, we're going to come into Clinton, and we're going to have some fun at Boxcars on Wednesday.
Who are some of your comedy influences other than Uncle Larry and George Carlin?
You know what? Growing up when I was a kid, I wasn't like a sports nerd or wasn't into like baseball cards or any of that shit. I remember one of my earliest memories, very, very young, was listening to the George Carlin Class Clown album. And I heard, before I knew my alphabet, I knew shit, piss, fuck, cunt, cocksucker, motherfucker, and tits. I don't know what you can't say on television. So, that was probably my earliest one. And then, of course, I had the pleasure of growing up during the big boom in the 80s, and I got to see the guys like Kennison and Andrew Dice Clay and Robert Schimmel, and of course Bill Hicks, and just really edgy, funny guys who were really good at taking stuff. And at that time, of course, people were a lot more uptight, and they had a hell of a time getting people to laugh, but just tore rooms apart. And, you know, today I love guys like Bill Burr and Doug Stanhope and just a lot of the guys that still have the balls to go out there and not worry about being too PC. It's a comedy show, man.
That's right.
You know, if you're there to have a good time, you're there to laugh, we're all going to be okay. The rest of your life, you can be serious. You're not going to go through life trying to intentionally hurt people's feelings, but for that hour up on stage, pull the pole out of your ass and have a good time, man.
Absolutely. Have you always been based out of Chicago? Have you always lived in Chicago?
I'm in Joliet now, but I was in the south side of Chicago. I was born in, actually, Cicero, which is the town next to Cigars and Stripes in Berwyn, so right around this area for sure.
Right. So you know, back in the day, like in the golden age of comedy, or the times you're talking about when, you know, Kennison and Bill Hicks were still around, were you ever able to go see them live in Chicago, like at Zanies or one of the other clubs?
Oh, dude, I really wish I would have. I talk about a little bit of my act, but I grew up with a really, really strict, like, religious Catholic mom. So, you know, when a lot of kids were hiding the Playboy under their mattress, I had the VCR with the volume really low, and I was watching, like, my HBO comedy specials that came on that I recorded and stuff. So I would have loved to have had the opportunity to do that, but growing up the way I grew up made me into a comedian. I wasn't able to really go out there and experience it live.
Yeah, that's something else I've noticed is, like, guys that sometimes I found that the raunchier they are, it's like the more strict childhood that they had growing up. It's like they're a caged animal and they're let loose.
That's absolutely right. You know, I should thank my mom for being so uptight, because now I'm headlining boxcars. So thanks, Mom. Top of the world, I owe it to you. Absolutely.
Awesome. What do you do? Do you like audience interaction? Do you like not hecklers, but do you like to have people interject in the show that you can play off of, or how do you handle that?
You know, I like to go up there, and for the most part, I like to do my act. If somebody's doing something in the audience that, you know, is worthwhile, certainly, you know, I've been doing this long enough that we could have a little bit of an interaction, but I'm not like Carrot Top or anything, bringing props and throwing frisbees at people and shit. And just,
right.
My jokes are mostly about my act. I've been through a lot of stuff, good, bad, and indifferent, and I'm the type of person, no matter how fucked the situation is, like, for example, I had a heart attack a few years ago, and I'm sitting there and I'm laying in the bed before I had the procedure to clear it up, and I'm thinking, I could probably get like 7 minutes out of this if I live. That's just the way my fucking brain works, you know? So, yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. It'll be a great time, man.
Well, that's exactly how comedians think anyway. You know, the best stand-up, in my opinion, the best comedy comes from pain. And when we're talking, you know what I mean? And when we're talking about, like, in this day and age, where you've got, like, the PC comedy police running around. We were talking earlier about, like, you know, language and content restrictions and things like this. One thing that I've experienced is a lot of times the people that do claim to be offended at a show, it has rarely anything to do with the words that I use and more to do with the attitude I had about a certain subject, or they were, you know, they were more offended about, like, the topic or your approach to it than actually the fact that I dropped a bunch of F-bombs. But it's like I said, you know, of course, you know, some of this stuff is going to hit close to home for people. That's just what makes good comedy, because, like I said, it comes from pain. So if somebody at the show is offended, especially if you're talking about, like, your heart attack, or if I'm talking about, like, you know, my bullshit childhood growing up, or if you're talking about even something that just happened that day that resonates with them, sometimes I think they're just confusing being offended with just being able to relate to it. It's like, I went through the same experience, sister. Stop bitching at me.
Absolutely, yeah, no, and if you got a problem with what I say, go find yourself a fucking open mic and get your 5 minutes together and hit me with your best shot.
For sure. Have you ever had anyone take you up on a challenge like that? I'm like, you do 5 minutes. Let's see what you got.
Well, we're talking about the Super Super Bowl that we do in Peru that we're doing in February.
Yeah.
That's a really cool room. The first thing that they do over there is they actually start off the show by having 3 audience members come up and do jokes. So
That's
I've
right.
never seen that anywhere else, but that's kind of a neat thing that they do.
Yes, yeah, I've seen that a few other times, and sometimes, you know, they'll get up there with like one of the raunchiest, most offensive, like jokes ever. It's like, holy shit! Like, I was worried about being clean here. Look at these. The audience is dirtier than the comedians.
No, for sure. And sometimes you're right. Sometimes you'll get instructions from the booker. And I hear Harry's super cool, but
Yeah.
sometimes the bookers will be like, I want you guys to be really kind of PG-13, and then they have the audience go up there and do their thing, and then maybe you say a joke that's a little off color and they're groaning. Say, hey, weren't you the guy 5 minutes ago who was telling a joke about pussy farts? Seriously. Give me a hard time for what I just said. Oh, my God. My favorite show that you and I did together, though, man, was when we went to Michigan City, Indiana. You get the best crowds. You have people that go out there. You actually let me do a spot on one of the shows that you do with Nathan Tricky Allen.
Yeah.
And after the show, the one lady, she owned a sex shop, and she gave us all like pocket pussies, which was fun.
Oh, that's right. That's right. It was someone from the audience who normally on a Thursday night, which is when I think we were there, it was a Thursday night, and normally on a Thursday night they do their bar version, what does she call it? It was like bar bingo, but the prizes were items that she gave away from her sex shop business, you know, where she would go around, and her business was going around to people's private homes and doing like a Tupperware party, but instead of Tupperware, it was dildos and vibrators and butt plugs, lube.
Went up to the front door like a Jehovah's Witness with a bucket full of dildos. And just like knocking on the door. They're not even expecting you. But yeah, I know with the pocket pussy, you're a happily married dude. You probably threw yours in the trash, but I used mine. I didn't realize it glowed in the dark. People in front of me when I was driving home were pulling over. They thought I was an emergency vehicle. But,
you're driving slower than I do when I'm baked out of my mind.
right, exactly. Oh my God.
And then as soon as you're about to blow your load, you hit the gas pedal.
Crowds, man. You always have the best crowds. I've never been to a Jared Huck show where people are uptight. It's always a good time.
Hey, I appreciate that, and it is fun, you know, and I get inspired working with guys like you because, you know, you get up on stage and you just destroy. You completely crush it. It's funny as hell, and it presents a challenge for me, you know. I don't like following duds. I don't like even following mediocre guys. I want to get on stage and follow a fucking killer. You know what I'm saying? Like, I want someone that gets on stage that forces me to raise my level of the game. And that's what I appreciate about working with you.
Oh, I appreciate it, man. You know, if you're in a show and the energy's already up and all the barriers and all the rules have already been broken, it makes it a lot easier for everybody to just fucking unwind and have a good time. Like I said, the rest of our life we can worry about the problems of the universe, but for the hour and a half that you're in there and you paid your money and you have your drink, it's a comedy show, man. Let's just have a good time and let's fucking party on a Wednesday night. Absolutely.
And I know they're looking forward to it this Wednesday night. Sold out show, Boxcars Pub and Grub, Clinton, Wisconsin. Shout out to Tim and Randy and everybody there, all the audience members, all the VIPs that buy their season tickets well in advance because they know what a great time every comedy show is going to be at Boxcars Pub and Grub, and this Wednesday night with the Fat Drunk Irishman Patrick Bagnan will be no exception to that rule whatsoever. In fact, he's going to elevate the game and he's going to make it a challenge for the next 3 headliners that come in there, February, March, and April. And he's also bringing a special guest act, Todd Glover. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Did I get that right?
For sure.
He's going to bring a special guest opening act, Todd Glover. It's going to be an amazing show. You guys don't want to miss it. Well, you're probably going to miss it, most of the people watching this, but the folks in Clinton, if they do have any seats available, make sure you pick those tickets up as soon as you possibly can. I don't think they're going to have any seats available. From what I understand, they're sold out. They sell out way in advance, but sometimes Tim does make an exception to the rule and gets a few extra people in there. What else, man? What else you got going on?
just, the same old thing as you, man. Just trying to do what I do with comedy. I was just at a show in Aurora, Illinois. They got a place called the Comedy Shrine. That's pretty cool. I was there this weekend. I got some other stuff coming up over the next few weeks, like I said, with Uncle Air. And I'm just looking forward to Wednesday, man. It's kind of weird the way the week runs for a comic. My brain, with it being a couple days away, almost makes it feel like today's a Thursday or Friday. But
yeah,
I'm totally looking forward to it.
Very cool, dude. Thanks for calling in. This is my daily live fake talk show, which is neither live nor daily. The 420 Report. The Facebook live video cut out about halfway through this conversation. However, I've got the other video camera going right here that I'm pointing at. We're going to put it up on YouTube. We're going to put it up on my website. We're going to put it at grassrootscomedy.com. I'm going to put it on Facebook at the Grassroots Comedy Tour. Hit up Patrick Bagden with the friend request. And, well, I'm going to have you back on again, man, because you got a lot more shows coming up with me all throughout the country on the Grassroots Comedy Tour.
Thank you, Jared. I appreciate it, brother.
You bet, dude. We'll talk soon. That's Patrick Bagden, everybody. This is Jared Dog, the 420 Report. Over and out.